welcome to Best Laid Plans. This is your host, Sarah Hart-Unger, and this is a podcast where we talk all things planning and planning adjacent. I am coming at you today just a few days after Best Laid Plans Live 3.0 just wrapped up in South Florida. So I have a few things to share with you that are takeaways from this conference, and I also want to get a little bit real with you all and tell you that right now I am absolutely feeling done. Or not done, but I'm feeling spent, I guess is the right kind of a word. So last week was Best Laid Plans Live, as I mentioned. And of course, there was a big buildup to get there. We do a lot of the preparation really throughout the entire year. I mean, honestly, we had booked our venue by the spring and things are done piecemeal throughout the year. So it's not like there's this big sprint to get things done. And yet every year when the conference comes up, there are some last minute things that need to be taken care of. And it just takes a lot of my attention. Then the conference itself, you guys, it was so much fun. And I even feel like I got to dive into some of my own, pre-planning. I can never fully immerse myself in my planning experience while I'm helping others plan at the same time. But I can kind of start thinking about things, and I always get so much inspiration from the women who attend this conference. It was a blast. Honestly, I would say it was the most fun year yet. I don't know if it's because this group just gelled so well, or if it's because I'm getting more and more comfortable hosting and now co-hosting this conference. And so every single year, I can kind of have a little bit less stress going in and worry how things are going to turn out, and a little more just enjoying the experience. And also, we did upgrade our venue a little bit. We were at a different hotel this year for the first time. We had done it at the same place the first 2 years. And honestly, it was a bit of an upgrade and just felt luxurious and fun. And I would say, I think the attendees had a great time, and I did as well. But it's also totally exhausting from my perspective. I don't think it's as exhausting as an attendee. I mean, you can choose to attend different parts of it and kind of go to bed early if you want to, if you're just coming. So you can make it as restful as you'd like. Of course, flying in is never restful. And we did have a little bit of calamity in that area where Laura ended up getting stuck. I think all of our attendees made it home, but Laura ended up getting stuck for one extra night. But yeah, I think most people who come have a restful experience. But since I'm teaching and feel very much responsible for everyone else's joy and good experience during the conference, I'm definitely a little bit on edge. I bet my heart rate is pretty high. And at the end, I just need to lie flat and relax. But I didn't get to do that for very long because this week was kind of crazy. I had 2 family members have surgery. I'm not going to share details. Everyone is completely fine. They were minor things that were very one and done, meaning after the surgeries, all fixed, no lasting implication. But that means that I drove someone to the hospital 2 days in a row, 2 different people, at 5 a.m, and sat there and watched my loved one have anesthesia and sat by their side as they woke up and drove them home and dealt with meds and worried about everything. And I realize it sounds also kind of silly to whine about it because obviously it's much harder for the person undergoing surgery than it is for the person maybe driving them around and checking them in and things like that. But still, after 2 days of that happened right on the heels of Best Laid Plans Live, you guys, I am just spent. And I have to honor that. So I had things on my list. My, book is coming out next month. There are things I probably should be doing for promotion. There are many items of things that I'd love to get ahead on. There's even planning related things that I'm excited to do. But honestly, right now, we are in that mode where we just do the things that are truly necessary. One might argue that recording a podcast episode is not truly necessary, but I kind of put that in the category that if I possibly can, I would like to get an episode out. Things that are not truly necessary are things that are not, due right away, or things that, won't impact others. So I actually have decided to kind of dial down my workouts this week. I'm trying to get up a little bit later. I'm not worrying about certain rituals that I love to do every day. As much as those things keep me grounded at a time when I'm just grasping for extra rest, I know that I can take a break and I'll be able to pick those things up later. In addition, I didn't even do a full planning session going into this week. I mean, I did some. I did the essentials, but I would say I did the light version that took less time so that I could take a little bit of time to relax on Sunday and just kind of figured out what the bare minimums were that I would need to get done this week because I was just so exhausted. So this is your public service announcement that you are allowed to dial down the non-essential things when your energy is taken up by the essential things. And I mean, honestly, I probably should have taken it even a step further. Like I ended up prepping dinners. And in retrospect, I was like, this would have been the perfect week to just make it takeout week or a green chef week or something like that. But anyway, yeah, so here we are right now. And just a confessional that I too get very much in the weeds, need some recovery time, and see limits to my energy that need to be acknowledged. So for today's episode, I'm not doing a planner review. I actually was hoping to do a review of the Hemlock and Oak new weekly, daily, and monthly that has just come out. It's on 70 GSM paper. I've never tried the paper. I've never seen this planner, but it's getting a lot of buzz because it's kind of a Hobonichi alternative, I would say. And I love the things that Hemlock and Oak puts out, but it didn't arrive. And that probably worked out really well because, again, I think I'm in the space more for a conversational episode than I am for an in the weeds, details type of episode. So that will be coming up. But instead, I thought I would do an episode sharing a list of a few takeaways that I came away from myself from BLP Live, kind of doing some pre-planning. And then I'm going to provide you with some episodes of the podcast that might be interesting to listen to if you are hoping to do kind of a DIY mini course on planning before 2026. I've had a lot of people ask me when the next round of Best Laid Plans Academy is coming out. That is another example of something that I've kind of pushed off a little bit. As much as I am so excited to do this course again, I know I want to do it right. I want to have the attention to give to the people who are in it. And so as of now, I think the registration is going to be out around the new year with the course actually happening in the spring, which will be well away from book launch season. So you can stay tuned for that. But if you're looking to something to do before then, I'm going to give you a whole slew of episodes that might be interesting to listen to that are like a mini primer on planning if you would like to DIY it. So I hope that is enjoyable and helpful to some. Okay, so with that, we are going to take a quick break, and then I am going to share some of those takeaways that I had at Best Laid Plans Live this year. And then we will go into that list of episodes. A full list of these episodes will be available on my website. So if you go to the show notes, there'll be a link to each of these. And then, of course, you can listen through any podcast player by searching, but you can also click on the links and they all should have little playable links so you can play them on your phone or device of choice. Oh, and one other housekeeping issue. I am almost done with finalizing pre-order bonuses for my book, Best Laid Plans, a simple planning system for living a life that you love, which comes out December 16th. And I am so excited about the bonuses, you guys. One of them is a PDF, and it is a checklist for your ultimate planning system. And it really is a nice counterpart to the book because if you want something fillable and something to kind of refer to for all the techniques that I talk about, I think this will be such a helpful companion. I could even see it working really well laminated, so you could do it again and again, but it will be shared in PDF format. It's designed really nicely, which means I didn't do it myself. It looks pretty. And then I'm actually going to be sharing a live webinar that's just for people who've pre-ordered the book, talking about top planning tips for setting up your 2026 system and top issues that people run into as they're setting up their systems. And so that will happen in January. We're working on setting the date, but you'll get the invite to this free webinar if you pre-order the book. So all of those details can be found on my newsletter. Eventually, I'll share it on my website. I will ask friends to share far and wide as well. And then at some point, I may even be able to put the link in the show notes to this podcast as well. So stay tuned for that. Super excited to be able to offer something for those who pre-ordered the book. Don't worry, if you already pre-ordered, you'll be able to just enter where you did it and some information, and you will be able to have access to these things as well. You don't need to have waited to pre-order. So if you haven't, go ahead and do it now. It's available at Amazon and Target and Barnes & Noble and Bookshop and all the bookish places. All right, we're going to take a quick break and get to the rest of what I promised in today's show. Today's episode is sponsored in part by Prep Dish. Fall and the school year is in full swing now, and at our house, that means all the sports and activities are up and running. You know what I don't love spending much time thinking about during this busy season? Dinner. For years, I have let Prep Dish do most of that thinking for me, and I've truly find it a mental load lightener. Here's how it works. Every Friday, I receive a new weekly meal plan straight to my inbox. That includes an ingredient list, a prep plan, and all the recipes needed for the week. I look at our calendar, make any adjustments if our schedules call for it, and voila, our dinner plans for the next week are set. Prep Dish now even has integration with Instacart to help you seamlessly build your shopping list. So if you shop that way, that just makes things even easier for you. The founder, Allison, is offering listeners a free 2-week trial to check it out. So this is a great way to see if her plans will work for you. Check out prepdish.com/plans for this amazing deal. Again, that's prepdish.com/plans for your first 2 weeks free. If you try it, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Green Chef. One of my favorite things about the fall season is the food. Warm, homey flavors just make everything feel comforting. Plus, with the new seasonal energy, it's the perfect time to reset and bring healthy habits back into focus. Green Chef can help you do that even if your season is chock full of school festivities and events. Green Chef's meals are made up of real, clean ingredients, and they help you build lasting healthy habits without the hassle. In addition to the balanced and delicious dinners we love, they have salads ready in just 5 minutes, protein-rich breakfasts, and nutrient-rich smoothies to fuel your day. The recipes change every week, and with week-to-week flexibility, you can adjust your plan to match your mood and your schedule. They really are family-friendly too. My kids are always so excited for our Green Chef dinners. Make this fall your healthiest yet with Green Chef. Head to greenchef.com/50bestlaid and use code 50bestlaid to get 50% off your first month, then 20% off for 2 months with free shipping. That's code 50bestlaid at greenchef.com/50bestlaid. Today's episode is sponsored in part by Organize 365. As we approach the close of another year, I want to take a moment to honor you, the leader of your household, the cornerstone of your family, the multitasker, the caregiver, the friend, the professional, and the dreamer. You wear countless hats, and with every role, you carry an invisible load. These tasks, decisions, and emotional labor sometimes even go by unseen by you, but they are never unfelt. This is the work that powers our lives. It's the unseen effort that keeps everything running, often at the cost of our own peace of mind or goals. But what if this invisible work didn't have to stay invisible? What if you could bring it to light, streamline it, and reclaim the energy it takes? The Sunday Basket is a natural partner for your weekly planning routine. The Sunday Basket contains and corrals all your ideas, paper notes, to-do lists, and mail safely until you are ready for your weekly planning time. Let this be the year you free your mind, lighten your load, and make your goals a reality. Together, let's make the invisible work visible. Visit organize365.com/sundaybasket to buy the Sunday Basket today. That's organize365.com/sundaybasket. All right, I am back, and I'm going to kick off this half of the show by sharing some of the takeaways that I had when I had some time and space to plan at Best Laid Plans Live. And this is just a set of examples of things that can happen when you give yourself the space and time to dream. And I definitely found that in my case, I also was very much inspired by hearing others plan alongside with me. So again, if you can't attend a formal planning conference, I encourage you to consider doing one yourself, like finding some friends who might want to plan with you or a partner. Of course, there's always Best Laid Plans at Home, which is another virtual option, and that might be really inspiring for some. That's in a very similar format to Best Laid Plans Live, and you can still register for that on my website. Just go to the courses page. It's at the top of the page or the shoebox.com/courses, but you could absolutely do this yourself as long as you carve out time and space to do it. And I do think that having somebody to bounce off some of these ideas with and brainstorm with can be helpful as well. So without further ado, here are a list of some takeaways that I pulled straight out of my workbook that I wrote. And again, this isn't all the planning. I did lots more than this, but these were just some ideas I came up with. Number 1, I realized I wanted to make a fall getaway a thing. I've decided I want to do this every year, honestly, until I die. I hope that I will be able to see leaves in the fall, which means leaving South Florida. So I also realized that I want to see my college girlfriends every year and was motivated to try to go ahead and meld the two. Since the conference, I already texted my college girlfriends and we are in the works of planning possibly a trip to like the Cape Cod area in October. So that would check off both of those things at once. I'm so excited and just like was inspired to do so by realizing what I really wanted and hearing some ideas from others. Number 2, I am realizing that I need something to fill the void that running left. I don't actually know what that thing is yet. It's just that when other people were talking about their hobbies and passions, I recognized that running was so many things in one. It was fitness, but like I don't miss the fitness angle. I have that covered. I lift weights, I do Pilates, it's fine. But there was such a hobby angle to it. There was an obsession angle, like trying to improve and thinking about races and thinking about the clothes and the accessories and having running friends and meeting and being social and having run club and like all these sort of running adjacent things that were just so much fun. And I don't have that right now and I really miss it. So I guess I'll say my goal is to figure out what is going to fill the running void. It might be more than one thing. I mean, I talked about some analog hobbies I might be excited to try, everything from cross stitch to playing Taylor Swift songs on the piano. But even those things, like I don't see them ever escalating to the level that running was in my life. And I just feel like I need something. So this will be a work in progress, but it was just interesting to make that realization of myself. Number 3, I set a goal to abandon at least 5 books in 2026. So yeah, I haven't finalized all of my goals, but I do feel like sometimes my fiction reading just gets bogged down. Like I'll be reading something and I'll be 75 pages in and I'll feel like I'm too far to stop, but then I'll kind of get stuck and I'll read 3 pages in 3 weeks or something like that. And that is just so silly. So my goal is truly to be able at the end of the year to tell you, well, I might not share the actual titles because I've written a book now and I don't really want to hear people talking about how they abandoned my book. So I just want to be able to tell you all that I abandoned 5 books throughout the course of 2026 because they were not for me right now, because I know that I need to attach some goal setting to ensure that I don't kind of get stuck in this loop of completism that's actually hindering my reading life. So yeah, number 3 is to set a goal of abandoning at least 5 books. Number 4, I realized that I truly need some one-on-one accountability to declutter. So whether that is somebody from Organize 365, an organization I know and love, or someone in the KonMari universe, we actually had an attendee at the conference who is part of that world. I'm going to find a person, whether it's live or virtually, to do this with me because I've failed enough years to know I need to throw some money or resources at the problem. So just stay tuned for that. Number 5, this is a silly one, but well, not silly. None of these are silly, but this is a small one. But as we were discussing routines, I realized that I will build in a routine. So I already have the routine of practicing piano with my daughter. It's my youngest daughter that plays piano. She's turning 8 and she's been doing it for about 2 years. In the beginning, it was really rough, but she's absolutely improving. And I would say our practice time together is improving as well. So I'm really kind of glad I put the time and effort into this. And I realized that a very natural time for me to go ahead and practice my piano that I want to do would be right after her. So perfect. I decided that I would just try to build that into my evening routine. It doesn't have to be a lot of time. Honestly, I'm not that patient, but if I can spend 10 or 15 minutes with my little Taylor Swift songbook, perfecting my Life of a Showgirl songs, that is my goal to kind of master them all next year, I think I will be able to do it. So excited about that. Number 6, I decided it was time to separate the finances of my business from the finances of my life. I track everything. So thankfully, I do reliably track things. Like when my accountant says, I need to know your estimated expenses and earnings, I can pull that data. But I need to pull that data. I need to have that data like not be mixed in with all of our other families' data. So that is a goal for next year. And then finally, I realized that I really want to figure out how best to share the planner. Really, it's a planner. It's kind of a workbook that I put together for planning by season. Right now, it's only available for people who are in that course, but I love it so much. Like, I love it, but I want to share it in a way that makes sense and that maybe ensures that people will really use it and find it. So I'm going to explore options for doing that. I don't know if I'm going to try a DIY standalone or try to manufacture things a little bit more like officially, maybe going through my publisher, another publisher. We will see. Anyway, I didn't realize I wanted to do that until the conference, but this just like came to me and I felt really strongly about it. So yeah, those are examples of things that will come to mind when you give yourself the time, the space, and brilliant people to bounce things off of. And there were so many more. Those are just like the few that I felt like were appropriate to share. So yeah, I hope those examples kind of get your mind starting to think about next year. And then finally, I'm going to share a list of episodes that could be your kind of mini Best Laid Plans DIY Academy if you want to just think about a lot of big planning topics prior to 2026. Maybe you'll make yourself a playlist. Maybe I'll figure out how to make a playlist and share it with you guys. But for right now, I'm just going to share all of the links and you'll be able to find those in the show notes. In addition, of course, all of this is in the book, so you should pre-order if you haven't already. You should also subscribe to my newsletter. That's where I often share little planning tools and hacks, as well as I'll be sharing the pre-order for the bonuses for the book that way. And then finally, here is our list of episodes, which you can find on my website, theshoebox.com. So I'll just say a brief few words about each of them because I have about, 12 of them here. All right. And these are in, by the way, I was going to go in reverse chronological order, but let's go in chronological order. So some of these are really old episodes. So it'll be fun to listen to how my styles have evolved. I cannot promise you that a system that I introduced in 2020 is going to sound the same in 2025 because I believe that systems evolve with us. But that's okay because I tend to really be very flexible in how I suggest people implement things. So I don't think I'll really be contradicting myself too much. All right, so the first one is episode 7, building a planning system from scratch. This was if someone wanted to kind of scrape together a few tools and they wanted to do that quickly, how would I recommend doing it? And again, that episode is from 2020, just a few months after I launched the podcast. So your mileage may vary with that one, but would be interesting to listen to. The second one is episode 28, which came out in February of 2021. Daily planning routines and crowding out bad habits. And this talks about how I set up my daily habit tracker for each day and goes through my basic daily planning ritual. Episode 36 came out in March of 2021, and I talk about planning in quarters or quintiles. I don't know, this might be the first time I introduced the concept of quintiles on the podcast. Not sure, but I'm sure I went into it in depth since it's in the title. And so this is your introduction to seasonal planning. Episode number 88, tracking things, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That is from April of 2022. So I talk about all things tracking, which is a big part of planning for some people and really not that helpful for others. So it talks about, again, kind of all sides to how one might try to track or not. Episode 110 is a classic that I actually did re-air. I've had very few re-airs, but this is one of them, called How Sarah Organizes Her Life. Fun fact, this was the episode at one point I was really, really lucky to have been included in a roundup of podcasts from the New York Times called Podcast to Help You Get Organized. And they linked to this episode. So I'm really proud of that. I think it's probably one of the more highly listened episodes because of that linking. But yeah, it's an overview of my system. Episode 145 came out in May of 2023 and it's called Efficiency Tips for Healthcare Providers. And I couldn't help including it, even though it's not relevant to everyone listening here. But I've shared it so many times to others in the medical field that I just wanted to include it on this list. Episode 168 came out in October of 2023. It's called Inputs, Interruptions, and Reactivity. And it's how to deal with all those things coming at us. I think I get into task management in this episode as well. So I think this will be a helpful one for people who struggle there. Episode 177 came out in 2023 as well and is called Annual Goal Setting. So it is a deep dive into how I like to do my annual planning. Episode 182 is called Nested Goals Explained for people who want to hear about my goal setting system and how daily feeds into weekly, feeds into monthly, feeds into seasonal, feeds into yearly. Episode 190 goes over the ideal week concept and how one might try to employ that to make sure all the pieces actually fit together. Episode 214 came out in 2024. It's called How to Build More Intentionality into Your Life. And this was just a one-off topical episode, but I felt like it got pretty deep, so I wanted to include that here. Episode 218 is called Your New Month Guide and talks about monthly planning. Episode 233 is called January Energy and 3 Essential Systems. This came out in January of this year. And the 3 systems are your calendar, your airtight task management, and your nested goals. Those are really what my book is about, all 3 of those things. And so I think I was in the throes of writing. Yes, I was in January of 2025. I was finishing up. So excited to include that as an episode. Episode 245 was a popular one called The Gap Between Planning and Doing, talking about when people struggle with tasks or projects that kind of get stuck somewhere and how to possibly counteract that. And then finally, another recent one, kind of along similar lines, came out in September, and it's called 10 Things to Consider If You're Feeling Scattered. So taken together, this can be your kind of mini primer to various aspects of planning, as well as troubleshooting if things aren't going according to plan. And so you'll have to let me know if someone's new to the podcast and this is the first episode you're hearing today and you really want a background. This is my suggested list. And thank you to the listener who, by the way, sent me a text asking for what would be a few episodes to consider starting with because that inspired this episode. All right. Well, that has been it for this episode. We have talked about me feeling very much in the weeds and low energy right now and some of my takeaways from that. My wonderful experience leading Best Laid Plans Live. Oh, I forgot to mention, we are doing it again next year. You can save the date as of now. It's going to be November 5th through 7th. I would make sure that you listen to sign up as soon as this is available because we might make it a little bit bigger, but the space is going to be limited. I know there were so many that wanted to attend this year that didn't get in. So again, this is your PSA to make sure you pay attention to that. And then finally, the rest of the episode was takeaways from my planning and a number of episodes to listen to. I would say approximately a dozen are listed here. That will give you a primer to planning if you are looking for a mini DIY Best Laid Plans Academy. All right, this has been a really fun episode. More planners to come. Again, hopefully that hemlock and oak will arrive, and I'll talk about the sprouted hourly that I had the pleasure of flipping through next week. In the meantime, enjoy your planning, enjoy this wonderful reflection and celebration season, and I'll be in your podcast feed next week.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.